Welcome back to On Assignment for Alignment with Aya and Naima. And today we're going to be talking about the borderline personality disorder cat being let out of the bag, okay? And I'm going to be talking about ways and lifestyle changes that I have made to help me combat emotional volatility and reacting based off of my emotions and learning how to regulate and manage my emotions. And that's one thing that I want to talk about with managing and regulating the emotions is that, a lot of times we hear people talk about controlling our emotions. Controlling your emotions is a myth. It's not a real thing. You cannot control how you feel. We are human beings. Sometimes feelings just come up because our emotions are there to communicate with us what it is that we need to pay attention to. Therefore, it is important for us to learn what our feelings are as they come up so that we can manage them as they come up and they don't have to be something that we are afraid of and that we want to suppress and hide because that isn't doable and it isn't sustainable. I am not perfect. I still have moments of emotional volatility, but I do my best to move forward and make sure that those moments do not happen often or more than once. I know that BPD has a bad reputation, and I do want y'all to know that we are not just doomed, and BPD isn't a death sentence, okay? There is hope. We can use the coping mechanisms to elevate our lives and live a more balanced and comfortable life. Number one, radical acceptance and self-compassion. We have to start here because it is important for us to be able to measure how well we manage our emotions and from there radically accept how well or how not well we regulate our emotions. And when we are in the process of measuring how well we regulate our emotions, it is important that if we don't feel pleasant about how well we manage our emotions, we need to be able to accept that. And we need to be able to understand that, you know what, this is where I am right now, but that does not mean that this is where I have to be forever. And once I was able to truly radically accept where I was on my emotional management and emotional regulation journey, I was able to give myself compassion and understanding and know, like, you know what, it's not my fault that I am emotionally dysregulated and unable to manage my emotions. I did not ask to have BPD, but I also knew that if I wanted to create a change, it was all up to me. And when I learned about creating space to give myself compassion, I was able to implement journal prompts that made me look at myself and face where I was in my emotional regulation journey. And I was able to write and cry and hug myself. And I hugged myself a lot on my self-compassion journey, especially at the beginning, because it felt so weird to be able to give myself that love. But I promise you, once I started to do it consistently, I was able to understand the cliche, no one else will love me the way that I love me. I was able to fully understand that when I was forcing myself really to give myself compassion, because I feel like sometimes with BPD, we always feel like there's people that don't understand us. And we feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders because we're so sensitive to energies on the outside world. But the thing about it is, not saying that we don't need love. Of course we need love, but the love that we need starts here. It starts here. It starts with ourselves. And I was able to create space for self-love through self-compassion. And now it is so easy for me to hold space for radical acceptance as well as self-compassion. There's times where things come up, where shame comes up, and I'm like, you know what? You actually don't have to feel ashamed about this. You can close your eyes, connect with your inner self, connect with your inner child. I talk to my inner child very often. A lot of the times I like to, before I go to sleep and I'm meditating, I like to close my eyes and I like to imagine my inner child coming through my bedroom door and giving me a hug and being grateful and being happy about the energy that we put into that day. And oftentimes when I am sitting and hugging my inner self and my inner child within my meditation, it allows me to create a vulnerable space with myself, because oftentimes I think before I got to this space, it was a time in my life where I thought that, what advice would I give to my daughter? But as I get older, I realize that the real question is, who would I be to myself as a child? Because I know that for a fact, the person that I am today would have loved to have me to look up to as a child. She would have loved it. So that is what I try to do now. And I try to create space for myself by reaching all the way back in to my inner child and being that person for her that I really wanted in my childhood. So every night I spend time with my inner child, and I close my eyes and I hug her and I create a vulnerable space within myself. I hope that is something that y'all implement into your lives. Number 2, regular scheduled isolation. The issue with BPD is that there is shame attached to being highly sensitive. I used to feel ashamed of being able to sense all of the energies in a room because it made me feel like I was going crazy. And I started to feel like I was going crazy because I didn't understand how to even manage that. How the fuck do you even go about being a sensitive person, especially as a child? And you're not really understanding that I am uncomfortable in this room because I am feeling everybody's problems and I'm taking them on to myself, and I'm carrying the world on my shoulders, and it's not fair. So I think that once we get over the radical acceptance and that self compassion, we are able to create actual real space for ourselves to just exist without other people. I think that regular isolation is important, and we all need to have spaces in our homes that is off limits to everybody, where we can go and we can clear our mind, that people are not able to have access to, people that are in our houses. And that is if you are unable to live on your own, because I do understand that isn't feasible for everyone. But if you are able to live on your own, create your home. Make your home your sanctuary. But if you aren't able to do that, make a space where you live that is off limits to people. You might even have to put up a little curtains, some little cheap curtains that you can get from the store, and create a space in your home that is off limits to everyone. And I always felt like in these spaces, my energy was being hijacked. But what was actually happening, like I mentioned before, I was just taking on all of the energy in the room. And I wasn't able to recognize that. So it was sending me into psychosis. And I'm so grateful to be the person that I am, because one thing about me, I knew that I needed some motherfucking answers. So I was going to get them by any means necessary. That is why I always say that having my diagnosis for BPD was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I understood, like, okay, this is the issue. But the good thing is, there are solutions. There is a treatment plan that I can put myself on, that I can get from a therapist, that I can get from intensive outpatient care. And now that I have reached for those tools, I was able to cultivate an appreciation and a respect for my sensitive nature. And now I am able to honor that by giving myself regular isolation. I love people. I'm such a people person. I say this all the time. I'm quite social, actually. But the thing about it is, for me, I cannot be around people for too fucking long. And one thing that I have noticed about myself is that I quite literally am a very calm lake. I am a calm lake. And one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of other people are not like that. They don't even understand how to identify what emotions they are feeling. And what you need to understand about yourself is that when you are a sensitive person, you have to surround yourself with people who hold themselves accountable for their emotions, because if they don't deal with them, guess who the fuck gonna be carrying them when they come around? You. So we have to have time where we are regularly isolating ourselves so that we can ground ourselves before we are just throwing ourselves into the world and having to be amongst other people who are not dealing with their own things. And then on top of that, we're just going through a space in the timeline that is just a hot ass mess, and a lot of people are going through it mentally. So it is important to be able to protect your energy by regularly isolating yourself and being able to identify your emotions so that you can know what is yours. And when you are out into the world, it'll be easier for you to say, you know what, I can hold space for you and I can have empathy for you without carrying it on my own shoulders and recognizing that this isn't my cross to bear. This isn't my cross to bear. Number 3, breathe. I'm going to keep this very short and simple. When I began to breathe intentionally through breathing exercises, I started to realize how much I wasn't even giving myself a chance to relax. In IOP, which is the intensive outpatient program, I was able to learn different breathing techniques, but my favorite one was the physiological sigh. So the physiological sigh is when you take one big breath in, then you do a small one, you hold it for 5 seconds, and you let it out. And you continue to do that until you calm your ass down. In IOP, I learned to do breathing exercises when you feel calm. You don't do breathing exercises when you are feeling anxious, when you are feeling overwhelmed. You do them in the times where you feel calm to build up the habit of breathing so that when those stressful situations come on, when those overwhelming situations come on, you are able to come back to yourself and breathe and understand that, you know what, this actually probably isn't that big of a deal, but it feels that way because my nervous system is overwhelmed. Physiological sigh is quite easy, and I'm going to stick beside her. So here she is. It's and you just continue to repeat that. And that is something that I do in the car when I wake up. Just anytime that I have some time, I'll do it for a quick 2 to 5 minutes every day and call it a day. And now it is literally second nature. I remember the other day when I was actually vlogging, I had a list of activities that I wanted to vlog, and I felt extremely overwhelmed. I did the physiological sigh 3 times, and you know what? After that, I was able to write down and figure out what it is that I wanted to do first. I wrote down all of my vlogging activities in order from easiest to least easiest, and I got it done. Number 4, EFT tapping with mantras included. When I first began doing EFT tapping, I cried. I was doing it for nervous system regulation, and when I did do it, I was actually quite overwhelmed. And I don't like to begin coping mechanisms in the middle of BPD episodes, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, none of that shit. I don't like doing it. I actually like to do it when I am quite calm because it can be quite intense. Once I discovered, I don't even know where I was at, but I started to realize that you could change. I was on Pinterest and I realized that you could rewire your brain depending on what goal you have. So for me, my biggest goal was to become more consistent with my business and focus my energy inward so that energy that I give myself is now being reflected in my business, because my business is my biggest area of pain in my life. And I say pain because I haven't really given myself a chance to lock in on this journey. So for 2 months straight, I did EFT tappings with mantras that helped me to really get my head in the game and really helped me to become more disciplined. And I've been disciplined. This is my 3rd episode. Even though I said I was going to do it every week when I first started podcasting again, I was able to come back to myself and realize, you know what? That is a lot for me. So let me stick to every other week and see how that goes. And that has been going fantastic. Okay. And I showed my EFT tapping exercises in my first vlog. But I do want to share another one of my mantras with y'all. And it is, I no longer have to fear people leaving me because I am whole and divine all on my own. Now, I tap up here. I tap right here. Other side. This side. That side. This side. That side. Here. 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 And here. And since implementing those mantras into my life and that specific mantra, along with the EFT tapping, I have seen a significant difference in how I emotionally process things that used to bother me. I'm a lot more calm when my abandonment wounds are being triggered, and that's not to say that they don't get triggered, because they do. I can actually feel them still, but they're not so intense, and I'm able to redirect myself, and I'm able to use my wise mind. And I will talk about that in a future episode. But your wise mind is when you take your emotional mind and your logical mind and you bring them together, and you're able to pick out the facts and pick out the bullshit. And you're able to come to a conclusion based on using both of those minds. So I hope that y'all take that tool and use it, because you can come up with your own mantras and that are specific to your own trauma and your own goals in your life. Number 5, medication. I wanted to save medication as the last tip that I have, because I understand how sensitive medication can be for Black people in America. I too went through a stage in my life where I was quite hesitant about taking medication for my mental health, especially because when I first was diagnosed with ADHD, I was prescribed Adderall, and that was not a good one for me. So I feel like that kind of scarred me and scared me for a little while. But then I was prescribed Zoloft, and Zoloft has been amazing. Okay, when the side effects that I did feel were sweating and vivid dreams. But I haven't been experiencing those symptoms as of lately. Those symptoms lasted a couple months. But now I'm like fully over a year within this journey, and it is perfect. I don't even know how the hell I was surviving before Zoloft, because I was on edge 24/7. But now I'm not. I was given 50 milligrams of Zoloft when I was in IOP, and I ended up loving it so much that I began to become angry with myself for even taking so long to do it, because I literally, I'm not being dramatic when I say that I don't know how I was surviving before Zoloft. I feel so calm every day. I remember that there was a time where I was constantly shaking my leg. Y'all know the anxiety leg shake, just to keep myself calm and get myself off of the edge. I ain't gotta do that anymore right now. I'm sitting here chilling. And I also remember my friend Cheyenne telling me about how I need to get on my medication, because she's on medication as well. And she was like, you need to get on medication. You're going to be so much more happy. And she was like, you know how I was before this. I'm so much happier now. And I said, you know what, Cheyenne, you're right. So I had started it. After that first week, I was like, wow, I could feel a difference already. That was crazy. And I texted her and I was like, thank you for applying pressure and putting fire up under my butt and telling me that I need to get on medication and I need to take my mental health more seriously, because it has helped me and I'm a way better person for it. And again, my wish is that this lifestyle change will help so many people out there, especially Black women, because I want us to be happy. These bitches is trying to kill us by the day, okay? And we need to be able to come back to ourselves. And I know that medication is scary. Number 6, surrounding yourself with people who will hold you accountable for your emotional volatility, okay? I'm going to put y'all in my business real quick. When I first started dating my girlfriend, it's about 3 months in, I ended up drinking too fucking much that night. And that is a great reason why I am an advocate for us measuring and understanding what our appropriate alcohol intake is. So that night I drank too much. Woke up the next day, I was embarrassed. I was afraid. My abandonment wounds had been triggered. I was even scared to have the conversation. I was like, okay, well, I got to get the fuck out of here, because if I don't go, she gonna abandon me first. So let me just abandon ship now. But she was very patient, very kind. I love you, boo. We had a conversation about it. And she basically told me, like, this is the type of behavior that I cut people to fuck off for. Okay. And I was like, ooh, she ate that one. And no lie, I probably felt the shame of that night for about 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, I transmuted that pain into me reserving a spot in IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. And that is where I was able to learn different techniques and coping mechanisms when it came to BPD. And I needed to go there because I needed to learn more about what BPD is, how do you handle it. Is when that whole night had happened, that's when I began to realize if I don't get help with this, this is going to be a cycle that I continue for the rest of my life. So I went and I got IOP, and I began to talk about it on TikTok as well. Ever since then, I haven't had any like real episodes since then. I've split a lot, especially when I first started dating my girlfriend. We're about 2 years in now, so I feel like those feelings have subsided a lot. My abandonment wounds do get triggered. Splitting gets triggered. But now I am able to manage my emotions by talking myself down as my feelings come up. And that was something that I was able to learn through IOP. And that is something that I was able to learn through IOP because somebody in my life held my hand to the fire and let me know that, oh, baby, you will be alone fucking with me if you don't get your shit together. And that was important for me. And it let me know that not only is my girlfriend a valuable person, but also that is the type of people that I need around me in general. Because before her, I didn't really have a grasp on BPD. I had actually got diagnosed in my relationship, and I used to feel like, I would have stayed single had I known I had BPD before. But to be honest, I've grown so much. She's shown me a lot about myself just by being herself. And I've learned a lot. And I learned the most about myself through relationships anyway. So having people in your life who will hold you accountable will help you with regulating your emotions, because you will begin to understand that valuable people, you don't get to abuse them. Now I want to give y'all a bonus tip. Create a space for yourself that only you have access to. Now, this is something that I talk to my clients about in life coaching. This is different from intentional isolation. Intentional isolation is just giving yourself quiet time to be able to ground yourself and come back to yourself. In this tip, I'm talking about having a space for yourself that you don't really give other people access to. And if you do give other people access to it, it's people that you truly trust. People that won't sit there and throw that space, that part of yourself back into your face. For me, that is being a researcher. I love to research information. My favorite thing to gather information and knowledge on is the esoteric world and the occult world, because it makes me feel powerful to know that I have all of this knowledge at my fingertips and that no one else knows about it, that I know so much about it. I use all of this knowledge to help me advance in this world, and I truly do believe that God put all of that here to give us some energies to work with in the universe, honey, okay? And I do a lot of things on certain days to help me out esoterically. And I think that eventually I'm going to start a Patreon and talk about that knowledge, because I do feel like I've gained a lot of knowledge over the years that can help other people. But I just need to become a lot more confident in that information, because I do feel a little ashamed when it comes to talking about that. So for me, that is my safe space. My safe space is my esoteric world and the occult sciences. There will never be enough knowledge that I can gain about that world, because it is something that has fascinated me since I was a child. Also think about the fact that I'm learning more about neuroscience now. And I love how neuroscience and the esoteric world and the occult sciences interconnect. And they be up in each other's business all the time, and I love it. And I also love the fact that I'm able to learn neuroscience now, and I'm able to put both of them together so that when I do begin to teach about the esoteric world on my Patreon, I'm able to connect it to science. Because I know that it's hard to really take certain things in when it sounds a little too woo-woo, and I understand and I respect that. But I do know that these methods work. And I know that there is space for all of us to gain knowledge and really use this stuff to elevate our life forward. I want to be able to teach that on my Patreon when it comes up. So once again, it's your girl, Naima, with the On Assignment for Alignment podcast. And I will be back with another episode the week after next. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all can reach me at OAFA Studios on Instagram, TikTok, and Ayo Naima on YouTube. See y'all in the next episode. Bye.